No, very excited to welcome back an amazing sports bettor podcast host, great friend of the show, Mr. Will Hill from Bear Bets, VSiN, and the Shoulda Bet More podcast. You can follow Will on X at not the Will Hill. Will, thanks for coming back on the show, my man. You're everywhere, dude. I think I just turned on my podcast. It's funny. I was like counting the squares. I'm like, man, Will's on this. Will's on this. Man, how do you do it?
Kiev, what's going on? And yeah, busy time of the year, and really, next week is the one where you always hear this as as bettors or whatever about a short week in football and short prep time. We're gonna have short weeks because all the podcasts we do on Wednesday, Thursday, it's all condensed. We have to do early in the week. That means we have to do our prep earlier and earlier in the week. So not that anyone wants to sit there and listen to us whine. We've got it pretty good, fun job, and really just I don't know how you feel. I'm sure you feel similar. One of my favorite times of the year, this whole week. The Thursday before Thanksgiving until that Thanksgiving weekend, you got 10 straight days where you wake up on Thursday of this week. There's an 11 a.m. Eastern college basketball game. There's like 10 college basketball games during the day, 10 or 12. And that's a normal thing where there's just this next 10 days, there are sports on all day, all night, college football, college basketball, holiday tournaments, the NFL. It is a great, great time of the year.
Oh, that's a wonderful thing, man. I saw your tweet and I was like, heck yeah, man. I'm very excited for college basketball be on during the day. And, it's kind of how they get ratings. It's like, there's people that are off for Thanksgiving week and, there's people sitting at home and want to watch some sports. And it's great for betting, great for our situation. Obviously, we can watch what we bet on. Have sometimes an ESPN Plus subscription, and most of us have that anyway. So we do that and watch as much stuff as we can and indulge. So, man, it is going to be awesome. I love Thanksgiving week, and we have a lot to talk about, a lot of football. But, man, there's a lot of NFL coming on this weekend. 4 bye weeks, but still plenty of stuff going on. But, man, I always like to ask a question before we get into things. And what popped in my mind today, Will, you've always been really good at these type of props. I'm curious about the next coach to be fired, and I suppose Peterson's probably the obvious one, but do you agree with that, or do you see another possibility out there?
Yeah, there's some candidates because there are some bad football teams. But Peterson's the obvious one. McCarthy's not too far behind. Your guy Eberflus in Chicago can't feel like he's around for the long haul. They were better last week, and really, I mean, they're a couple plays away. I mean, they should have beaten Washington, fluke Hail Mary, as we know, and then the kick gets blocked. So as bad as they've been, and as bad as the perception is, much as they've gotten beaten up on, and some of it's fair, not that far away from being a 6-4 kind of team. So life on the line, I'd probably go Peterson. McCarthy's not going to be there next year. Peterson's not going to be next year, and barring some miraculous run, Eberflus. So none of the three are going to be there next year. It's just, and I don't know if anyone offers these markets. Just a matter of, does the owner, does the GM want to fire the guy and get a head start? Is there any value in firing the guy now as opposed to the end of the year, which is, kind of a flip of a coin? But those three are the obvious ones where they're not going to be back. Guy like Dable is interesting. Will they bring him back? I would. I think he's a good coach. I think he does more with less. I just think he's been hamstrung, kind of handcuffed with a bad quarterback situation. They've just turned over coach after coach after coach. I think they finally got a good one, and he had a great first year. It hasn't been good since, but that's one that I wouldn't be shocked if he's fired, but I would think that's a mistake, and I actually think Dable will stay.
Wow. Okay. It's so interesting. Like you made the point of, does your team get better? What's funny about Doug Peterson is why bother firing the guy that's going to get you the number 1 draft pick? It's like these guys there, even if the team's not responding, what's it going to do? I almost think a team like the Bears position being 4-6 that could literally sneak in the playoffs if they won most of the rest of their games. It would make more sense just to get the locker room to do something. But the Bears do not do that. The Bears, for some reason, McCaskey is against firing a coach mid-season. And it's like, dude, you've been losing for 50 years. Why don't you try something different, is what I say. But Eberflus lost that game before the field goal kick. It was that's how he loses all his games. He doesn't win any games. He's more of a losing coach because he instilled the loss within the team. He's scared to go for extra yards because he's scared that they're going to throw a pick. And once you do that, you already lost. Even if they got that penalty of the guy running into the center, he's missing the next kick. It's not going in. It's because the way he loses games. It's just extremely cowardly. But I wish it would be him. But I suppose you're right. It probably is Doug Peterson. He's the obvious one. And Yeah, I don't think it is Dayball too. There's something about Dayball that resonates. He is a better coach than his results. I do agree with that. I think that Daniel Jones and a few things on the defense last year was injuries. A lot of things haven't gone his way, Will.
I mean, there's not a lot there. Now they have Neighbors. They have the running back Tracy, looks like a good player. So maybe there's some pieces, but Jones, I mean, the worst thing for them, and I've said this, the worst thing for them is that first year Daboll and Joe Shane, the GM, took over. It was supposed to be a reset year where, all right, let's get rid of the dead money. They were, in a bad cap situation. They were a bad team. They weren't expecting much. That was supposed to be a year where you just clear the deck, clear the cap, get a good pick, and then rebuild from there. But they won. They won a bunch of fluke games. They won a bunch of close games. Then they got in the playoffs. And they beat Minnesota, and they kind of talked themselves in. Well, I guess we have to pay Daniel Jones. I guess we have to pay Barkley for a year. And they didn't reset things. They kind of, they went forward instead of backwards, and that's kind of reset them. That was completely fool's gold that year, and that really has set them back here, I think.
And you had that awesome bet on Dayball, and Doug Peterson was the next guy in the position. They're both, and then now they're both on the chopping block out. Ironically,
NFL is not for long. The NFL stands for not for long. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Well, hey, let's talk a little bit about buy low, sell high here. It's such an interesting. It's just so interesting looking at the lines. I feel like the variance is so high in this NFL this year, and big teams are covering now lately, and. Is there a team that kind of we're undervaluing a little bit? You look at some of these monster spreads. You got the Washington at 10.5. You got the Lions are always going to be favorites of 7 or more when even on the road. Against the Colts are 7.5. Any let's start with buy low. Any buy low teams that you can think of?
I'll take a chance on the Bucks plus 400 to win the division, just because Atlanta's played terribly here. Tampa didn't play last week, and they made up ground. Tampa can make up ground this week if they can beat Tommy DeVito, which I think they can, and that line is up to 6.
Yeah.
And the look at the rest of the schedule. Atlanta's on a bye, and then when they come back, they play the Chargers, then go at Minnesota. They still play at Commanders. Tampa plays Carolina twice. They have a home game against the Raiders. They have a home game against the Saints. They have this week against the Giants. And they play the Cowboys right around Christmas in Dallas. Now they have one Charger game in there. There's a path here, and I think Evans is getting closer to returning. Mike Evans, the receiver. I think there's a path for Tampa to run down Atlanta. They're 4-1. I don't think that's a bad one. And if you want a little bonus one, I know they're a little teased. We've all, we've all been teased in our lives, and we just keep chasing the thing that we love, but it doesn't love us back. The Cincinnati Bengals are plus 350 to make the playoffs. They don't have a bad schedule. A lot of Titans and Steelers. I think there's a Browns game. There's a path here for Cincy. They can win any game. The problem is they can lose any game. So if you're looking for bang for your buck, those are two that might be interesting. As far as sell high here, you know what? I'll go with Pittsburgh. I was wrong about this team. I like their under. Everyone liked their under. The schedule's tough. But this is where, and I sound like a bad blackjack player who's just doubling down and tripling down. This is where the schedule gets really tough. After these Browns games, at Ravens, at Eagles, there's a Chiefs game in there. It's a really, really tough schedule. So I still think that it's a little smoke and mirrors when you look at the stats, the yards per play, net yards per play. Who goes 2-0 without scoring a touchdown? The rest of the league, I think I saw the stat today, is 2-20 when they don't score a touchdown, and they're 2-0. So Pittsburgh, this might be the time to sell high. I think I lost you for a second. You hear me?
Yes, I can. So what I was saying is I think that I'm totally with you on Tampa. And if you remember, I took that on your show before the season started. I was hoping that Tampa was going to obviously win the division here, and at plus 330, it wasn't bad, but now you can get plus 400. Do you still hear me?
I got you. Yep, absolutely. No, I would agree with you. And it's just, I mean, it's hard to trust Atlanta. Atlanta, that was somewhat predictable as someone who's a Vikings fan who knows Kirk Cousins. Boy, you get him outdoors against the pass rush when he's out of his comfort zone. It does not go well for him, and that was ugly last week in Denver. So yeah, Tampa is one that's that is interesting.
Yeah, and what sucks about the buy low, I mean, there's already ones that I would have said a couple of weeks ago that, like Denver and a few others. I'd even tried to fade Denver recently, but that was dumb. That was last week against Atlanta. I just thought Atlanta was a really good road team. They can cover 2.5 points, but that didn't happen. But, there's some teams. I think San Francisco, to be honest with you, I know they're beat up, but, dude, they're still San Francisco, and they're going to show up. They're going to try to make the playoffs. I'll probably say I'm going to buy a little bit low on San Francisco. And then sell high. Whew, yeah, I mean, we already kind of sold the Ravens, and they lost. I don't think they're a sell high anymore. It's tough. I guess the Lions a little bit because they have those injuries. I feel just the flat spots coming. I don't know if it's this week or not, but they're they're the best team in the NFL. I don't disagree with that. We talked about this, but.
Like I said, I'm a Vikings fan, so I've got some just like Homer Vikings bets to win the division, win the Super Bowl, which I just kind of did for fun. Now they're at super long numbers, and the Vikings had a lead against Detroit with a 1-point lead with the ball, or if they could have won, they'd be looking at maybe the 1 seed. So I'm sitting here rooting for Detroit every week, and hey, maybe this is a flat spot. Maybe this is a flat. They win these games by 50. They're the only team I can remember in recent memory that's just they're completely impervious to these flat spots. They come out and they just bury people. Campbell. He's a little bit odd in terms of the game management sometimes, but he's aggressive, and he is a hell of a motivator. Those guys always play hard. So, look, it's the NFL. They're going to trip up, you think, at some point. They're probably not going to be 16-1. They do have to play the Bills. They do have to play the 49ers. But, that is not a fun bet. That is not a fun way to, that is not a fun team to hit submit on when you're fading that team.
Oh, I know. It's not. It's tough. And the best thing to do is be on them, really. But it's teaser leg probably this week for me. Steelers, Browns. I know most people are getting this show on Friday morning, but I guess what's weird is that this is such a bad spot for the Steelers that I'd even still lean the Browns, even though I lost on the Browns last week. And I hate the spot because I think it's kind of a sandwichy spot for the Steelers. They got that big win against the Ravens. There's no way I can bet the Steelers, but I find it hard to bet the Browns. Anything on Thursday
would be just a lean to the dog. We'd be leaning towards the under too. I haven't checked the updated forecast, but I know the weather was supposed to be an issue here. Look, Pittsburgh, they've exceeded expectations. Give them all the credit. I was wrong about them, but when you start talking about laying over a field goal on the road, that's a different neighborhood, and that's really a common theme this week where there are a lot of ugly home dogs, and it's either – boy, you got to bet the home dog, and that's uncomfortable, or you got to lay some points on the road with teams you don't really want to lay points on the road with. So it'd be a lean towards the Browns. I figure because it's a rivalry game, primetime game, that the Browns will play up, but that defense just hasn't been the same. They've given up a lot of long runs. Pittsburgh can run the ball, so I would expect Pittsburgh to find a way to win the game. I think we've talked about this before. It's an important rule to reiterate, though. If this game were on at 1 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon with 8 other games, would you bet it? If the answer is no, you shouldn't bet it on a Thursday. So, yeah, look, there's props. There's other ways to attack it. I don't side total. I wouldn't bet it if it was Sunday afternoon, so I'm not going to bet it on Thursday.
No, that's a great call. Steelers have the Bengals on deck, and you wonder if they're just overlooking the Browns because the Browns have 2-8, horrible record. But, since Orosu Koromora came out for the Browns, their linebacker, they were terrible. Taysom Hill pretty much just ran all over him last week. It was Taysom Hill who just took the game from him and won last week. It was just very strange how poor the Browns were against the run. And that worries me because it's going to be a wet, snowy, little bit of wind type game. And if that's the case, Najee Harris is going to be running all over him as well. So that's what worries me. I wouldn't doubt if this was like a 13-6 type game either. So the under is, it's 37. But that might be too high. So I lean to the under as well, like you mentioned. Let's move on to, we already mentioned it, the Detroit Lions at the Colts. Colts plus 7.5, total is 50.5. I've been trying to say, to myself, can the Lions just keep this amazing run up where they're just not having any hiccups? You know how teams are. They're kind of It's not linear. They might have their bad game when the team they're playing is having their good game, and you try to predict this stuff. And even no matter what, this line's still short for my number. My number is higher than this on the Lions. It is. But it's the NFL, and you don't lay big points with the NFL, and you wonder if that Anthony Richardson is good enough to cover this, and the Lions with their injured linebacker. I'm going to tease the Lions down, but I'm probably not going to take the Colts. I talked myself out of it.
I'm teasing the Lions too. I know, you're laying, if you're talking about just the spread, you're laying over a touchdown on the road. That's not a great habit in the NFL, but I just feel like if you're taking the Colts, you're just doing it just to do it. You're doing it just to be a contrarian. And as you mentioned, look, the numbers I kind of go over and look at, I think it's closer to be like a double-digit spread. It's a really simplistic Colts defense. It's an offense for the Lions with a ton of weapons, a good offensive line, a quarterback who's going to be playing indoors, who can get the ball out. They really ran it up last week. They got Goff, his confidence back, and that was the situation. You don't see teams in the NFL with their starter in up 42-6 throwing the ball around like they were. So it'd be a lean towards the Lions on the spread, but teaser wise, that it's going to be one that's going to be mixed and matched here with a couple other teams.
For sure. And the Colts have not been running the ball well. I saw them last week with Jonathan Taylor. He couldn't run the ball. He couldn't. And
nope.
You figured against the Jets, they should have been able to run. They actually won the game through the air, which shocked me. But Anthony Richardson was in his I just lost my job, I have to prove it back type spot. So I understood that he played a little bit out of his mind last week too. Here's another one for you. Chiefs at Panthers. And the Chiefs are paying 10.5 on the road, total 43. And you're talking about a Chiefs team that doesn't really run it up. So can you hold your nose and get to the window with Carolina, or what are you doing with this one?
No, I haven't bet this game. I know, again, you're laying double digits on the road. And it's interesting because I've grown up betting the NFL under the belief that when there's a double digit spread in the NFL, you either take the dog and you take the points, or you don't bet it. It's either dog or pass, and that's a profitable strategy. That's outdated. If you look back, and I think 2011 was the new CBA when practice time started changing, and that's kind of the new era of the NFL. If you go back to 2011, I'm not a huge trends guy. Double-digit favorites are like 60%. I think every double-digit favorite this year has covered. There's only been 3 or 4 of them. So just, hey, when it's double-digit, you take the dog. That is completely antiquated in my mind. I don't know that I'm dying to lay it with the Chiefs, but you are getting them off of a loss. You are getting them where, hey, we got a loss out of our way. Maybe we can just relax and play football. We don't have to answer questions about being undefeated anymore. Not that anyone thought they were going undefeated. So I understand why people would take Carolina. They play a little better. Young has looked a little better. You're starting to see some pieces here and there, offensive line, some of the receivers. They do have some skill. Hubbard's played well. But I just worry about a scenario where it's a fired up Chiefs team and, they win the game like 23-7 or something. If I had to bet it, I would honestly lay it with the Chiefs, but I am not betting this game.
I agree with you. I would lay it with the Chiefs too if I had to bet it. I think that no bye week can save this Panthers team and make them any better. If the Chiefs weren't off this awful loss to Buffalo, their first loss of the year, it might be a different story.
Yes.
You might think they'd be a little flatter, but no, they're probably going to fix things and come out firing. I wouldn't doubt it if this is a good team total over for the Chiefs, which you're probably looking at it's a 43, so 27-17.
How about a Panthers team total under? I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but what do you think they'll give us on a team total? Because that might be the way to play it. I could probably look it up.
It would be 17 because it's 10.5 and then 43, 27-17, 27-16. They'd probably do this, make it a 16.5 and make the over plus 100 or something is probably what they would do and give you under and the minus.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, they'd probably screw around like that.
Under 17.5 is minus 185. Under 15.5 is like the minus 110 juice. So I like it. Some of these books, I like what they let you do, where they let you pick the juice, pick the number. So you just, hey, I'll pay a little more juice to get a better number. So I like that, especially in these team total markets where the margin's thin. At 15, 16, those are kind of dead numbers. Would you look at an alt like under 10.5 at 2-1, under 14.5 minus 102?
Yeah.
Maybe
that's what I would look towards, under 14.5.
I think so too. 2 touchdowns and a field goal. You know what? If they beat you, they beat you. It's going to be hard for them to put up that, I would think.
I agree. I think the Chiefs, do what they got to do and then get out. And I think you're going to see a good defensive effort. How about the Bucs and the Giants? We just mentioned it. Giants now +6. total
Jeez.
41.5. That's a low total. What do you think about Tommy DeVito, cousins of Danny DeVito coming in? He's worked some magic before, Will.
Oh, this week stinks to high heaven. My goodness. I had a great feel for last week. I had a good week. Like I had a good feel for all the games this week. Oh my goodness. Like I said, you got to have an appetite to bet some of these. I want no part of the Giants. I don't think DeVito's a pro quarterback. I know he went 3-3, and ironically, kind of cost them a shot at Jaden Daniels, Drake May, because that took them out of the running. That dropped them to, I think, the 5th pick instead of like the 2nd or 3rd. But if you look back, his EPA in those 6 games, even the 3 wins, was awful. He's not a pro quarterback. He's not. I remember him from college, and the first couple times he was in the NFL, I said, "Wait, that can't be the DeVito from where did he play? Rutgers or whatever." Like I was shocked he even made the league.
I think it was Syracuse.
Yeah, Syracuse, and then I thought maybe he transferred from somewhere else. He was bad in college though.
Went to Illinois.
Illinois, yes, that's what it was. Illinois to Syracuse. It's hard to lay points with the Bucs on the road. Maybe a Giants team total under. It'd actually be a lean to Tampa because I don't know what you think about this, but the Giants are clearly kind of not only, it's bench Jones so we don't have to pay him. Could you say they're tanking? Because why is Drew Lock not starting? They paid Drew Lock $5 million, which was basically the difference between keeping Barkley or not, an extra $5 million. Now you're going to go with DeVito instead of Lock, who's the veteran, who's at least serviceable. I want no part of the Giants. It'd be Bucs or pass.
They can't be taking because Dayball has just mentioned that he's playing for his job. He said that to the media, and it's probably true. Unless
they have some agreement, some understanding. Hey, you're back next year, but here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna play DeVito. Little wink, wink. We want as high a pick as possible. Let's not win an extra game or 2. Maybe they were scarred by last year. Like, man, we won 3 games in the last 6 weeks where we really screwed ourselves because May looks like the real deal. At least, a competent NFL starter. Daniels looks like the real deal, and we missed out on these guys because we won some, BS extra games. Let's not do that again. Let's throw DeVito in there. He's worse than all these other guys. The fans love him. Nobody's going to complain. We stink anyway. I mean, I have no proof of this, but I'm just kind of thinking out loud,
No, for sure. What's funny, Tampa's more of an overs team.
Yeah.
Giants are an unders team, 7-3 for Tampa, 3-7 for the Giants. I was looking over, and believe it or not, now that they have Evans back, I think that they should be able to score. But with DeVito there's more chance of a pick 6 and a couple mistakes, maybe a fumble 6, in a sack situation. And, maybe they do get hyped up, throw the ball up to Malik Neighbors. He grabs 1 or 2, gets the job done. I think there's some variance in that game. I guess Tommy DeVito and Locke, I've never been so high on Locke either.
Not me neither, but.
You're right. I love a good conspiracy theory, though, man. So I hope you're right. They are secretly taking because Dayball's got he's got his pay stubs coming in for next year. So that would be fun. That would be awesome. Patriots, Miami Dolphins. Dolphins -7.5. Total is 46. So I'll tell you right now, I did take the Patriots. I took them at plus 7.5, but dude, I don't feel good about it. I kind of feel gross. I mean, it's a Dolphins team, and the way they've been playing the last couple of weeks, they're like, look, man, we have 6 losses. Now they're 2-6, 3-6, 4-6. There's kind of like, I think it's 6, but either way, I'm close. They are working their way to try to get sneak into the playoffs, and I see that bump that they got. The Patriots, they're also playing better, and to be honest with you, the one trustable thing I have on the Patriots is I don't think that they're tanking. I think they expected to be bad this year, so they're not like in give up mode. They're still kind of in let's work and Gerard Mayo and put a good effort up, And Drake May is a little bit of a wild card. He's got some good legs. He's got a great arm, very strong arm. And Bourne's over there. They got some playmakers. Like you said with Tracy, I love that running back. I think Tracy's a great running back. And I think Miami's defense isn't that great. I was considering about teasing out of it too and just bring Miami to 1 and hopefully middle, but I'll stand by my Patriots plus 7.5. But I still don't feel great about it.
I'll go over 26.5 team total for Miami. They are right at the top of the league in EPA since Tua came back. They're the best thing you can be is from a betting standpoint. They're predictable. You get them against a good defense outdoors in the cold. they're going to shrivel. They're going to look like they did in Kansas City, where they're freezing on the sideline and they score whatever 7 points. But you put them at home against the mediocre defense. The weather's fine. They can just kind of spread the ball around. I like the way they played. And if they miss the playoffs by a game or so, they're going to be kicking themselves because they gave away that game against Arizona a few weeks ago, where the safety just got the game off kilter and they could never recover. They had Buffalo that had a chance to win that game. They're good. I mean, the playoffs I think would be more fun if you had a Miami or Cincy as the 7th seed as opposed to a Denver or one of these teams. But I think they'll score. I don't think this New England defense is very good. The weather's going to be fine. I agree. May's been competent, so maybe May scores enough to make Miami keep their foot on the gas. So I will go over team total 26.5.
Oh, I love it. That's a great play. Over team total for Miami. I'm writing that one down. I like that. That makes a ton of sense to me. Titans, Houston Texans. Texans
God.
-8. Total 40. You're really excited to talk about this, so I'll let you go.
Oh my goodness. I am in I think 6 weeks recovery of the Tennessee Titans. I bet them early in the season against the Bears, then maybe the Jets and the Packers. They have covered one football game all season, which is amazing in the NFL because even if you're the worst of the worst teams, the spread is the great equalizer where the worst teams cover some games. One game, and we're talking like we're almost at Thanksgiving. One game is really hard to do. Texans are obviously a teaser leg here. If maybe the Texans are vulnerable in the offensive line and the Titans, with Simmons and some of these guys up front where they can pressure Stroud and keep the score low. Remember, this is a kind of a sneaky rivalry game because of the whole Houston Oilers thing.
Yeah.
If I had to bet it, I guess I would take the points. I'm teasing the Texans. I'm not doing else with it. You figure at some point, do is a dangerous word in betting, but you figure at some point the Titans are going to cover their second spread of the year. But man, they have not gotten any of my money since I forget the last time I bet them. But I've just gotten off this team, and they find ways to not cover spreads. It's amazing.
What does our friend Chris say? We hate ourselves because I did bet the Tennessee Titans, and it must mean because I hate myself because this is the worst freaking covering team at 1-9 against the spread. But something's got to give here, man. This is a division game.
Yeah.
And in a division dog plus past the 7. And I've been watching the Texans a lot this year.
Not impressive.
Not impressive at all. D'Amico Ryans, he's done some good things as a coach, but his in-game stuff has been bad.
Yeah.
I don't understand why he didn't go for it on that 4th and 4 and tried to kick a field goal against the Lions. It's like, dude, you left them with 2 minutes. Even if you go in 3, they're going to win. All you have to do is get the first down and run their timeouts off. That was absolutely blew my. And they had Joe Mixon all day against the Cowboys, and they quit running. And the Cowboys have the worst rush EPA defense in all of the land. It's like these Texans are a little bit fraudulent, and they really try to survive with CJ Stroud's arm. And I know Nico Collins is back, but there's a little rust there. There's still no Diggs, obviously. This is one where it's going to be ugly, but Tennessee is going to show up because it's a division game. I don't know if it's the second division game, Will. Maybe it's the first one between the two. But
I don't think they've played each other yet.
Okay, it's the first one between the two. But 8 points is a lot. And the one thing at least I can hang my hat on with the Titans is their defense does show up. Their defense puts on a big effort. Sometimes a couple explosive plays happened the last week or two, and that's how they got covered. The Vikings got them in a massive play to Addison, I think. But if they can just stop that a little bit, they can sneak into this one. So I'm taking it at plus 8.5.
Have fun, man. Enjoy.
We hate ourselves. All right. Here's another hate game. The Cowboys at the Commanders. Yeah, this is up to like 10.5 now on DraftKings, Will. Total 45.5. I'm going to tell you, I listened to a lot of shows today and yesterday, and a lot of people are on the Commanders, man. I can't say I disagree, but once again, division game. What is your thoughts?
Jeez. Again, this is one of the uglier weeks I can remember in a long time, because are we really in the position where we're laying double digits with this Commander team who has regressed, shown some flaws? I can't do it. If anything, I would take the points here. I wouldn't feel great about it. I mean, how bad must Trey Lance be that he can't get on the field over Cooper Rush? But, the Kingsbury regression is real. I think he, for whatever reason, he fades in the second half of the season, whether he doesn't have enough plays or his tape becomes too predictable. I'm not smart enough to diagnose what the issue is, but I can't get to 10.5 with Washington. I think this is inflated. If I had to bet it, I'd take Dallas, but I have not bet this game. I don't know if you have.
No, I have not, and I am not going to. I talked myself out of the Commander's side because of what you just said there with Cliff Kingsbury. I think he does fade a little bit at the end, and I also think that even though the Cowboys are a shell, they still have a couple stars there that could disrupt.
Yeah.
Parsons, they still got C.D. Lamb. Tolbert's really fast. I mean, can Cooper Rush just have a semi-competent game, not throw a pick six? And that Commanders defense is a little fugazi. I think that, they get by being ahead of teams a lot. Yeah, I'm not touching it. I think I'm gonna stay away from this. Now here's one.
It's dangerous with a lot of these teams too that are out of it. We know the coach is going to be fired. The record's bad. It's around the holidays, so they're distracted. Like, do you get a full effort out of Dallas? Or do they come in here and they're fired up and they keep this game close and it's a 3-point game with 6 minutes left? Or is this just like 37-10 and they just never show up? They never get off the bus and they've kind of half quit. It's hard. I mean, we can do all the handicapping and look all the numbers, but there's a human effect here where it's hard to know if we're going to get a full effort of, hey, we were 12 wins 3 years in a row. We were supposed to be, a deep playoff team. Our season's over, and they just kind of mail it in. I don't have the answer. It's hard to know.
That's so true. And when it comes to backdooring things, that's a big part of it. I mean, if the Cowboys are in this game, they're going to give a full effort whole game, but all of a sudden they get jumped. They're down 14 points.
Yes.
That's when they can give up. And that's the problem. Almost live betting in these situations might even be a little bit better. Bears hosting the Vikings, and these are the loser Bears, but these losers covered for people last week against the Packers. They should have won the game outright. But here's another situation where you have a division game. You have a home dog here in the Bears. Holy cow, is it gross. Total 39. But, man, do you really want to lay points with Darnold here in his third road game in a row? We'll break it down.
I'd be leaning towards the Vikings. I just don't like the matchup. And I'm not in love with laying points on the road with Darnold. The matchup, though, of Brian Flores against Caleb Williams, a rookie quarterback, I think could be a disaster. There's so much disguising. It's so complex. Guys are coming and going. And, this guy looks like he's blitzing, but he's dropping back. This has disaster written all over it. I don't play this market a lot, but I'll be looking for it. Maybe it's up now. Will there be a defensive touchdown? I know it's usually around 2-1 plus 250. This could be a game with Darnold, and we've seen him being mistake prone recently. Caleb Williams against Flores. You could see a pick six. You could see a fumble return for a touchdown. Maybe even sprinkle a little, Minnesota defense to score the first touchdown. That'll probably be in the 25-30-1 range. So maybe you look at derivatives here. I want to fade Caleb Williams versus Flores. Maybe you look at Caleb Williams passing yards under. So this is one where props would interest me more because I do like that matchup. The total, again, it would be just a lean, but I do think there's some meat on the bone in terms of the props, the derivatives.
Oh, I love it. Defensive touchdown. Great thought on that. I'm going to write that. I wrote that down. That's going to be fun to play. Yeah, absolutely. A little beer bet or something on that. Maybe that's going to be our beer bet banger for later. So that's pretty fun. I'm passing on this one. I think the Vikings should be 5 or 6 point favorites, but they're not. They're 3. Fruition here if they possibly get quit on Eberflus. Let's move on to the Denver Broncos versus the Raiders. And the Raiders are +6. The total's 41. Well, I bet this early in the week, Denver -4.5. It's at 6 now. I would have said, yeah, I kind of like Denver, even though I'll tell you this, the Raiders have been my crutch. If I bet on them, I lose. If I bet against them, I lose. And this is like over the past 3 years or so. Gardner Minshew, for some reason, he plays hard, but he can just throw that pick six, or he throws that last touchdown to backdoor it, or you have a dumb coach kicking a field goal down 8 and messing everybody's spread bet up, yet losing the game by 5. So that could happen too. It's not a play at 6 for me. What about you?
Not a play for me either. Total coaching mismatch. Sean Payton, who's he's proven again. It wasn't just Drew Brees. He's a good coach. I think a lot of us owe him an apology, me included, where I never said he was a bad coach. I just thought the way he acted, how arrogant he was. I think it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. But he's a really good coach. Antonio Pierce is not a good coach. That being said, 6 is a hell of a lot of points for a Bronco team who's still, I know they were impressive last week. They don't score a ton of points. I just don't know how the Raiders score. Maybe a Raiders team total under, maybe a Minshew under passing yards, Minshew under attempts, because from the whispers you hear, Desmond Ridder, he entered the game a couple weeks ago. Minshew's kind of on a short leash there, so maybe you get lucky. And if Minshew doesn't play well against this Bronco defense, that's number 1 in the league, yards per play, a lot of these categories, maybe they pull Minshew. So maybe some unders on Minshew, but no play on the side of the total. All
right, no play on the side and the total. Let's move on to the Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. Arizona's -1. It's close to pick 'em though. -112. Let's just call this a pick 'em. Total is 47.5. Well, I like the Cardinals. I'm not going to stop betting the Cardinals. I've been betting them for a while now. I could not believe the Jets were favored against them. I was like, are you serious? I made it a best bet. I'm not getting off this Cardinals. They're a very close team to me, being I'm in Arizona, and I know some people that work in the organization. They're fighting hard. They're motivated. They're confident. They have some great receivers. McBride's a beast. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. They're just playing with a lot of confidence right now. And so is Kyler Murray, saying all the right things. Seattle's kind of coming off a big win against San Francisco, a little bit of a letdown spot. And there's good Geno and there's bad Geno. This is time for a bad Geno spot. And last week was more about San Francisco playing it too careful and just allowing the whole 4-down territory to get out to win that game last week. Plus with Nick Bosa being out. Yeah, man. I'm betting Arizona. I'm betting them at Pick'em, and until I lose, I think that they're an underrated team. Will.
Totally with you. I like Arizona here, and I think they're underrated. And we talked about them, I think, in the spring or the summer about one of our teams that we both thought was underrated. They held their own against a really tough first 6-8 weeks of the schedule, where you look at yards per play allowed, yards per play gain, they're kind of average, they break even. But when you're doing that against the schedule they were doing against, you have to really bump them up. And just look at who they played: Lions, Packers, Bills, Commanders, 49ers, Chargers, Dolphins with Tua. They've had a really tough schedule. It's gotten a little easier lately with the Bears and the Jets. But I think they're underrated just because how strong the front half of their schedule was. So I think this team is still undervalued. I like the Cardinals here. Important game too, because all these teams in the division are bunched up. They're all within striking distance. Nobody's out of it. Nobody's in control. These games with the tiebreakers are going to be very important. So important one to keep an eye on, but I like Arizona.
Absolutely. Glad we have a great agreement on that one. Let's move on to the next one. San Fran versus Green Bay. And the Green Bay is now -2. It was 2.5 earlier today. Total 47.5. I kind of have a thought on what you're going to do, but let's see what you're going to do.
How do you have a thought on what I do?
Because it's a teaser leg.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely a teaser leg. Good point. Side or total, it's going to be tough. Do we know anything about Bosa at the moment?
He's 50-50 is what they're saying. I'm not betting. I'm not teasing it because of the defense, though. I'm teasing it because I think they can score and keep up. I wish it was 3. It'd be more of a San Fran side for me. And this is an ugly week, so when it comes to my contest picks, so it's going to be like my last one in or out, But I mean, I put them already with the Detroit Lions, so I think it's just a smart teaser leg because this game can go over. It's 47.5 in Green Bay in the cold, and they're telling you points is going to happen. So that's what I thought you were going to go with. So
yes.
Maybe.
Nope,
Okay.
I'm with you. Don't have an interest in side or total. If you do like San Francisco, maybe you take part of your bet or you just add a little bit to your bet and you do take a 49ers to win the NFC West at +350 because, like I said, they're all bunched up. I don't necessarily like that because the schedule is so hard. At Packers, at Bills, they still have to play the Lions. They're probably going to have to go 5-2 to win this division because they've lost so many division games. But, hey, the talent's there. It's just, man, you see this in baseball sometimes where, like, the old saying is bad teams in baseball, when you hit, you don't pitch. When you pitch, you don't hit. It's always something with the 49ers. When their defense plays well, they can't score. When they have a lead and then the defense can't hold on to it, or they're missing kicks, or the kicker gets hurt. It just feels like it's a star-crossed year where nothing is going right. Throwing a little Super Bowl hangover, throwing the drama with the contracts over, the offseason, the McCaffrey injury. It just feels like it's a little bit of whack-a-mole. Every time you deal with one problem, another 2 problems pop up. So I'm afraid of catching the falling knife with San Francisco. I get the talent. I get why people would be intrigued. Again, I think it's a good teaser leg, but if you do like them, plus 350 is interesting. It's not enough for me. There's a weird vibe with this team.
I agree. It's not enough for me either with that schedule. And yeah, it's they're not. I don't think they're going to be able to beat Buffalo and Green Bay. They're going to definitely lose at least one of those, if not both. So I agree with that. How about this one? Eagles and Rams. Rams plus 2.5. I mean, this is close to a 3. There's probably some 3s in some books, and the total's 49. Man, I tell you, this Rams team, they are hard to figure out. I think they're just that team that has that veteran in Stafford who shows up sometimes, and other times he ghosts. It's just it's you have to predict that almost with this Rams team. But then the Eagles are on a monster tear right now. Are they at the top of the market? This spread doesn't really say it's at the top of the market. So, I mean, I have a strong lean to the Eagles.
I like Philly. I think Philly's underrated. I think the way they ended last year was so bad. They started this year with the loss to the Falcons on Monday night where they blew the game. Sirianni was doing weird things against the Saints. Sirianni's yelling at the fans. So people kind of soured on this team. They have a hell of a roster. I mean, just go through it. 2 probably top 15 or 20 receivers. Barkley's a top back. He's not a good back. He's a great back. Hurts, top 10-ish quarterback. Goddard's a good tight end. And these 2 rookie corners on the other side of the ball have been outstanding. And look, I'm not an X's and O's guy, but all the film guys say Fangio's scheme is really good. It just takes some time to gel, takes some time to get used to. They're gelling. They've played really well on defense the past month. And you could say, all right, it's competition. Well, Washington was a good offense. Look, they've killed Jacksonville. They at least killed them in the stats. They've dominated these teams. To me, there's not much of a home field for the Rams. You're always going to get plenty of road fans there. I think Philly is a significant step up from the Rams. I wouldn't be shocked if the Eagles are playing in the NFC title game against the Lions come January. I think the Eagles are really, really good.
Oh man, I love it. That's the side I'm leaning really strong. I'm kind of hoping some contrarian money knocks it down a little bit. I might even do a money line. It's at minus 155 right now. That doesn't bother me. I play baseball money lines all the time. UFC money lines. I'm used to it. So I might go that direction. I think the Eagles do win this game. I think they're just the better team, and I don't love the Eagles to cover big spreads, but you're still below 3 too. So I'll have to kind of pick my choice on this one. Finally, we have the
going though. Got to get that kicker straightened. Now, a lot of these kickers have struggled. Tucker, Elliott. These kickers were automatic the first month or 6 weeks. Last week, and they
killed him. Cleveland kicker missed a couple. I had Cincinnati plus 2.5. They should have lost that by 1 or something. That or won the game. That was oh my god. I am
tough.
Don't even get me started on kickers. Ravens versus Chargers. Chargers plus 2.5. Total 51. I have a play on this, but I'm gonna let you go first. See if we line up.
I'm afraid to fade the Ravens off of the loss, but I'll take the 3. I like this Chargers team. I think they're almost in the same boat as the Steelers, where we all assume they're a playoff team, and it's kind of like, hey, they're in the car. They're going to make the playoffs. They're definitely in the car, but they're in the back seat. You kind of have to wonder, can you move them up to the front seat with the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Bills of the AFC, because they've got a good offensive line. They've got a defense that's playing well. I've always been a Herbert fan, and boy, he's an odd duck, but that Jim Harbaugh is one hell of a coach. They are maybe not this year, but all they need is skill guys, and skill guys are pretty easy to come by. They are a monster in the making here. They have a bright future, a coach, a quarterback, an offensive line. There's a lot to like about this team. I'll take the 3 if I had to, just because, like I said, Tucker, he went from being automatic, and it's one of the strangest downturns you're ever going to see. It's not like he's 45 years old. He's 34, and he went from he can't make it, he can't miss to he can't make. And that's a major issue, because what do you do on the 3rd and 2, the 4th and 1? It throws a whole wrench into your game plan here. And those misses are key. They killed him last week, so it'd be a lean towards taking the 3. I'm curious what you think.
I took 3. I took it at minus 110. We'll call it 3 right now, because on FanDuel it's at minus 120. So we'll call it a 3 for both of us. This is a Super Bowl revenge spot still, believe it or not. Jim wants this game, and I think Jim's a better coach than John.
I agree.
I've seen John make some boneheaded mistakes. I think that Super Bowl, you could have called that penalty or not. That would have been a completely different story in the win. Obviously swallow your whistles, whatever. But Harbaugh's got this team going. He is proven that he can coach these guys up. He's changed Herbert into a star. And now they got some wide receivers like Johnson just catching the ball. I mean, great routes. How about Ladd McConkey out there, man? freaking used to play for Georgia, won championships at Georgia. Now he's playing for Harbaugh and just having a fantastic year, man. This is a he gets rid of his receivers, right? The Bears don't hire Harbaugh. They buy receiver. They suck. Harbaugh is one of the best coaches out there. 3 points is way too much. And I might even think that the wrong team might even be favored in this one. This is seriously a play for me at 3. It's one of my best bets for the week. I know Denzel Perryman's a little banged up, but so is Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith might miss this game. And if that's the case, guess who's thinking revenge? J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. You got 2 guys that played for the Ravens that saw Derrick Henry go over there, and they're definitely going to want to get some revenge. The Ravens are terrible against the pass. One of the worst teams in opponent drop back success rate and drop back EPA. They're giving up a ton of yards on the pass, 28 in drop back EPA. And Harbaugh can scheme, and he's going to get these guys going. He knows how to stop Lamar. Yeah, dude, this is a no-brainer for me. I'm taking the Chargers. It'll be a contest play too.
I wonder if you gave the Chiefs true serum. I know Worthy's an explosive player. Wouldn't McConkey and his just reliability and route running on the Chiefs, wouldn't that be a better fit? I think about this stuff sometimes.
That's a great point, man. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I think that, he's a starter. He's like the number 1 out there. Quentin Johnson and Josh Palmer are also definitely not no slouches. And Will Dissly's catching everything. He's been a great tight end. Caught the first touchdown last week. Goddamn. Harbaugh does it with nothing. And, Khalil Mack will be back eventually. He's questionable for this week. Joey Bosa, believe it or not, is playing a third down. So it's like, wow, you're not hurt, Joey Bosa. It's kind of amazing to see. But now he gets the best out of his players, and I love it. But this kind of brings us to beer bet bangers. And you know what? I decided to take this, and you can call me crazy at the end. I took the Chargers to win the AFC at plus 1,300. Plus 1,300. Now, I don't think they win the division. I think they'll come up 1 game short, so they might have to limp in. But if they do win the division, that'd be great. They still have to go to KC. But I think that this team can beat anybody. And once they beat the Ravens this week, this thing's going to drop to plus 800 or worse. I think that there's so much choke in guys like Lamar Jackson when it comes to the playoffs, and guys like Josh Allen. I'm sorry, I love Josh Allen. He's the MVP of the year. I agree with that. But he chokes in the playoffs. Let's find a team that's not going to with a great coach. 13-1 on the Chargers is my beer bet banger.
I like it. I think it's interesting. Coach, you got a quarterback. I like that one. I will go with Bucks plus 400 to win the South for all the reasons I mentioned. They have an easy schedule. They have a very easy schedule. Falcons have a tough schedule. I don't trust Cousins. I don't trust Atlanta. No pass rush. Soft on defense. Tampa plus 400.
Will, you're awesome. Really appreciate all your great insights, my man. Where can our listeners get your great information and plays?
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me. Should have been more podcasts. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Fox Bear Bets podcast. VSiN on all the time. Megapod. So appreciate you having me on. Always fun to catch up. Good luck this week.
Yeah. Best of luck to you. We'll be talking soon.